Ukrainian people seek refuge as attacks on the country escalate. More on the war and its impact coming up next.
We take you live to Hollywood, where protesters are set to rally in solidarity with Ukraine.
And we have reactions from students as COVID restrictions on campus are about to be lifted.
Annenberg TV News is next.
Emotions are running high as the Russian invasion of Ukraine intensifies. Good evening, I'm Evan Wyno.
And I'm Lizzy Reisinger. Ukrainian President Zelensky has signed an application for Ukraine's membership in the European Union, hoping to gain greater Western support.
We appeal to the European Union for the immediate accession of Ukraine via a new special procedure. We are grateful to our partners for being with us, but our goal is to be with all Europeans and most importantly to be equal.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says the resources of the European Union could help his country fight Russia. In the fifth day of attacks, Russia hit Ukraine from several directions, crossing into the country from the north, south, and east. Ukraine's military says it has blocked Russian troops from entering the capital, Kyiv. Meanwhile, Ukrainians continue to make their way toward Poland in search of refuge. The United Nations says more than 500,000 people have fled to neighboring countries since the start of the invasion. After the 36-hour lockdown was removed, grocery store lines in Kyiv wrapped around the building. Residents in line were frantically buying basic necessities in the event of another lockdown. The EU stands behind Ukraine, but EU officials have suggested that entry would not be immediate. Yesterday, the president of the European Commission said it wants Ukraine to be part of the bloc. Protesters standing in solidarity with Ukraine are holding rallies across the country. Reporter Cassie Esparza is live at the CNN building in Hollywood, where another rally is about to begin.
We are right outside of the CNN building here in Hollywood, where protesters are starting to set up for a protest starting right at 6 p.m. to show their support for Ukraine. And I have with me here Irina. She's a Ukrainian citizen. Her entire family is back home, and she's here to show her support for Ukraine. Irina, can you tell me what it's like to be here today in Los Angeles, showing your support for your home country from so far away?
It is really hard right now what's happening in my country. It's a real genocide against our nation, and we all here across the whole world and United States, we are gathering for these protests to show our support for our people, that we are there with them even though we're far away, but we trying, to deliver the message that's really important right now. We need to close the sky. That's what we really need from NATO. We asking our Russians to don't be afraid to finally speak out to Belarusian citizens, because they cannot just go to the war against what they say brothers and sisters. People have been brainwashed in Russia for so long time, and this needs to stop. They need to hear this message. They need to come out and act. And I'm here, and others Ukrainians, we all are praying for our families in Ukraine, for our friends. This is the war, and this is the genocide against our nation.
Thank you so much, Irina. As you can see, they're setting up back here. The protest will start at 6 p.m. and will come back around so you can see people gathering here outside. Back to you in the studio.
Hundreds of people gathered in West LA this weekend to show support for Ukraine and demand more from the Biden administration. Ukrainian student Maxim Franco shared how the war has been impacting his daily life.
I don't think I've ever experienced this many emotions at the same time. I can't sleep. I don't eat well. I get panic attacks a couple of times a day, just out of nowhere. Not exactly great.
In a daily Trojan letter to the editor, Franco called for the USC community's support through political outreach and donations. Russian and Ukraine students alike are struggling with the emotional burdens of the war. The immensity of the situation has introduced anxiety, as many are worried about communicating with family members.
In the face of uncertainty, students become anxious. For the Russian students, it may have to do with financial security, given all of the sanctions that are being imposed upon them.
I know that I am not to blame for this, and the Russian people are not to blame for this, but I still feel guilty. How can I make sure that I'm doing everything I can to support my Ukrainian cousins and friends and everything?
As more information is released each day from Ukraine, students will continue to keep a close eye on the conflict.
And Ukrainian citizens are showing people the reality of the war through social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. These personal stories are powerful, but one USC professor says they don't tell the whole story in a complex situation like war.
Criticism is that we all, for the most part, live in echo chambers right now, and we hear only what we care to hear. And the social media platforms, because they have algorithms that look at what we engage with, what we like and share and comment on, will continue to curate for us opinions that we already hold.
An Instagram account created by Ukrainian women in 2019 is showing followers how they can help. The founder spoke with us about using social media for advocacy.
We now have the benefit of connectivity and the world's eyes being on things and being able to see things real time. And being able to disseminate information real time and get resources channeled real time. So I would say the benefits definitely outweigh the issues.
Christina Vosbikian said the benefits of social media outweigh the costs, but misinformation is still a big problem. Tomorrow night, President Joe Biden will deliver his first State of the Union address to the country. Juliet, can you tell us a little more about some of the topics Biden will be talking about?
Hey, Lizzy. Politicians and political observers predict that the president will begin his address by talking about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. This comes as Biden has imposed strict sanctions against Russia and Putin. Now, the Biden administration is assessing Putin's rhetoric on nuclear war. Two experts say tomorrow's State of the Union address has the potential to unite the country against Russia's authoritarian regime.
The Ukraine crisis and the invasion by Russia of another country, a democratic country, by an autocrat, has really brought us together as a nation into saying we're going to defend and provide the resources. And I think the president is going to talk about that and get tremendous bipartisan support.
I certainly think it's going to be a significant portion of the address, and most likely at the top, certainly going to condemn the action.
He will most likely be focusing on 5 major areas: the COVID restrictions that are still in place, the U.S. response to Russian invasion of Ukraine, and high rates of both inflation and crime. He is also expected to talk about voting rights. You can watch the State of the Union address before Congress tomorrow night at 6. Evan, back to you.
USC plans to lift several COVID protections starting tomorrow. Trojans can expect fewer trips to testing sites and more trips to campus residences and facilities. Fully vaccinated students will no longer require to test weekly. Regular testing will only be required for Trojans who are not fully vaccinated or have not received their booster shot. Students can look forward to guests being allowed back into campus housing, and visits to the gym will no longer require reservations. Some students are excited about the news change, others have mixed feelings.
Really good step forward, kind of after 2 years of being masked and all this. It's nice to finally be able to hopefully stop getting tested and then hopefully not wear masks.
I have mixed feelings. I am fully vaccinated, so it's kind of I feel good about not having to test every week, but at the same time, I'm a little bit worried about other people who may still get COVID.
K through 12 California public schools will be able to drop their indoor masking requirement on March 11th. Indoor masking policies at USC have not changed, but Student Health says indoor masking requirements may be lifted after spring break.
Ketanji Brown Jackson has potential to become the first Black woman to sit on the Supreme Court. More on her path to the nomination coming up next.
Reporter Alena Botros tells us about efforts to eliminate hair-based discrimination.
And Trojan Roundnet has bounced their way to becoming an official club sport. The story coming up.
Worried your friend's struggling but don't know how to reach out?
You could say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could write them a text or knit them a sweater. If you can't be together, you could write them a letter. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch. However you do it, you gotta ask a friend. And if they don't share, you can ask again. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
There are a lot of ways to reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
President Biden's nominee for the Supreme Court would succeed retiring Justice Stephen Breyer. If confirmed, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson would be the 116th justice to serve on the nation's highest court. She currently sits on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Jackson once clerked for the Justice Breyer from 1999 to 2000, and she graduated from Harvard Law in 1992.
This will be the most diverse Supreme Court ever in terms of race and gender. And obviously, it's a huge step forward on both of those fronts. Continuing to add different diversity to the Supreme Court in terms of race and gender is a really good sign for the country.
Democratic leaders would like to see the Senate confirm her nomination by the April 11th recess. Conservatives would still hold a 6-3 majority in the court.
13 states have passed laws against race-based hair discrimination since California became the first to pass the Crown Act 3 years ago. But reporter Alena Botros shows us new laws don't always change old attitudes.
The Crown Act stands for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. The law prohibits hair bias and discrimination by educators and employers. A diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant knows what prejudice about appearance feels like.
I've experienced hair discrimination because once you start making decisions about what it means to be professional, you hear you have to sound white. You hear you must keep your hair straight and relaxed. You hear all these things that as a Black woman are anti-Black. It's a rejection of me and who I am.
The Crown research study found Black women are 80% more likely than white women to believe they have to change their hair to fit in at the office. Tiana Hainlin and her daughter Scarlett are trying to change the perception around natural hair by teaching young girls to embrace their curls.
I don't want her to ever feel like she has to straighten her hair to be pretty.
After the summer of 2020, they started to publicly share their routine of doing Scarlett's hair while saying affirmations.
I love my curls.
I love my curls. Us inspiring other people to actually embrace their child's curly hair and not want to change it in any way will help the whole thing.
So far, versions of the Crown Act have failed in 5 states, but they're pending in 9 others. For Annenberg Media, I'm Alena Botros.
Hello, hello, hello. It is Justin, your Monday weather boy, and let's take a look at today's forecast. So right now it is 77 degrees outside with 14% humidity, and let's take a look at this week's forecast. Looking onwards to this week, it looks like temperatures will be cooling down, starting with a high of 84 degrees on Tuesday to a high of 63 degrees on Saturday. So once again, Los Angeles can't decide what season it's supposed to be. But between you and me, I need it to be in the 60s. And for the exciting part, there is a 30% chance of rain after 4 p.m. on Thursday. So if you're planning on bombing your midterms and accepting the fact that euphoria is finally over like me, Thursday is your day to do so. Well, that's all I have for weather today. Riley, what's new with sports?
Coming up in sports, Drew Peterson is still on fire. USC women's swim brought home multiple trophies from their championship meet over the weekend. And FIFA has banned Russia from competing. Stay tuned for all that and more when we come back from the break.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown and feel technique. After the first drown, a good stir. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay. Yeah. Hey Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Well, it's about that time. We've got tons of tremendous Trojan stories to cover today.
I'm Riley Flynn.
And I'm Gavin Murillo. Let's go! USC guard Drew Peterson has been named the Pac-12 Men's Basketball Player of the Week again. This is the second time this month that the 6'9" guard has won the award. Peterson helped lead the number 16 Trojans to a pair of road wins in Oregon by averaging 21.5 points, 9 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. Chucking in a game-winning money ball late in the fourth, Peterson's clutch three-point shooting helped the Trojans defeat the Ducks and earn a regular season program record of 25 wins. Now, Dagger Drew has been balling out of his mind as of recent, putting up crazy numbers all across the board. Over the last 5 games, Peterson is averaging over 20 points and is shooting a ridiculous 56% from 3, solidifying himself as a lethal weapon for the Trojans on offense. With March Madness approaching, the Hoopers of Troy are gearing up for another highly ranked matchup as they face off against number 2 ranked Arizona in a sold-out Galen Center for their final home game. We now bring in our swaggy correspondent, Quillan Sortino, to talk more about hoops. So, Quillan, obviously Dagger Drew is playing out of his mind right now. What are some of your biggest takeaways from how he's been hooping?
Well, thanks, Gavin. Dagger Drew is playing out of his mind, and I think a very underrated part of his game is his ability to stay on the court. Now, you saw on Thursday's game that Boogie Ellis, their second best scorer, was out with an injury. He couldn't play. And Dagger Drew, he has been averaging 40.5 minutes per game. You understand that there's only 40 minutes in a basketball game, and so these last 2 games, he's been averaging more than a game played per game. How about that?
Wow. Some outstanding stats from Quillan, but I can't say I'm surprised. The main takeaway for me is the fact that the last time USC beat a team ranked this high was number 2 Arizona when they played them in 2000. So can the Trojans repeat from 20 years ago? We'll have to find out this Tuesday. Now to Riley.
Thanks, Gavin. The Pac-12 Women's Swim Championship was this past weekend in Washington, and the Trojans won 4 Pac-12 individual titles. They also went 1, 2, and 3 in the 200-yard breaststroke, with Isabel Auders in first, Caitlin Dobler in second, and Calypso Sheridan in third. USC Caroline Pennington won the 1650 freestyle, her first Pac-12 title. Annika Delgado won the 50-yard freestyle, and Caitlin Dobler won the 100-yard breaststroke, which is the fastest time in USC and Pac-12 history.
It's really amazing. It's really amazing, and just to be able to share that experience with my team. I had two other teammates in that heat go under a minute for the first time, so it was great for all of us, and I was really happy that I was able to share that with them. It's just amazing to be able to get my name in the history books, and I'm just really excited for the next generations of swimming, for them to break my records too.
The next women's swim event will be the NCAA Championship in mid-March. Now let's take it back to Gavin.
Hey, that's me. The number 2 ranked USC women's water polo team powered ahead of number 5 Hawaii with the second half surge to earn a 3rd place finish at the Barbara Colbus Invitational. Bailey Weber, Paige Hochschild each tallied hat tricks in the Trojans' victory, improving USC's overall record to 11-2 on the year. In the second half, USC made its move. A cross-cage sniper shot from Sabrina Garabet tugged the Trojans back into the lead, ultimately helping her fellow Splash sisters win by a final score of 11-7. USC now has some time off from competition, with the next scheduled game set for March 12th versus Indiana at 1 p.m. in Tangzhou Aquatic Center.
USC baseball capped off its sweep of Omaha this weekend with a 7-4 win on Sunday. The Trojans improved to 5-2 on the season after winning each of the first 2 series. Outfielder Trevor Halsema had himself a monster weekend at the plate. The senior hit a game-tying homer in Sunday's victory, along with a walk-off RBI double that kicked off the weekend sweep. Halsema spoke about his mentality at the plate leading up to the big knock on Friday.
Getting pitched a lot of sliders all day, and I just told myself to go up there, and if he throws a first pitch slider, just hammer. And luckily my teammates were able to get on base, even put me in that position, so I'm very thankful for that, and I'm just thankful to have a team win.
Now, going a little bit more in depth into this baseball team, prior to the win and the sweep this weekend, USC had struggled particularly on the bullpen front. Their bullpen had given up 5 runs in that last 2 losses that they had, but in the sweep, they only gave up 2 runs in 13 innings, so very well off the bullpen was in that sweep. And these Trojans will continue to try keep the momentum going as they square off against LMU at Page Stadium on Tuesday. First pitch is at 6 p.m.
Today, FIFA and UEFA announced that they have suspended Russia from competing in all international matches, including the World Cup. This decision follows the Russian invasion launched 5 days ago. Both FIFA and UEFA issued a joint statement saying, "Football is fully united here and in full solidarity with all of the people affected in Ukraine." It is unknown how long the ban will last, but for now, Russia will not be competing in the world's most famous soccer event. Well, that wraps it up for sports. Sort of. Stick around for more about the Trojan Round Net and how it's taking the sports scene by storm. Coming up next.
Lávate las manos por 20 segundos como Elmo.
Hay algo especial acerca de este lugar. Se siente como un hogar, una sala debajo del cielo y los árboles. Rodeado de aire fresco y la naturaleza. Todo aquí para que lo disfrutemos y para que lo cuidemos. Tenemos la responsabilidad de cuidar de esta tierra que llamamos casa, de preservarla para las generaciones que vienen. Cada acción pequeña contribuye para un cambio mayor y cada uno de nosotros podemos hacer la diferencia. Hay algo especial acerca de este bosque. Es un lugar donde se hacen recuerdos y juntos podemos preservarla y protegerla.
All right, for the last part of our show, we want to take you back to Hollywood, where Cassie Esparza is live at the Ukrainian protests. Cassie, how's it going?
More people are starting to come here at the Stand With Ukraine protest, and I have another protester here with me. Yuri, I know that you still have a lot of family back home, and you're dealing, how has it been, trying to keep up with them, and how challenging it's been during this time?
So it's really challenging because of the time difference. So every night we're trying to reach to all our friends and families, make sure they're alive, they're safe, and they keep together. And so that's a little challenging for us. And during the day, we're trying to gather here to inform other people, especially Americans and other people in the world, what happens in Ukraine, that this war that we don't want, that Putin's regime is doing really bad things over there, and it's real war where people die, and it's a lot of people are dying, and a lot of people are scared. So we want the world to help us to stop Putin and his army.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. So as you can see, they're setting up a screen behind me. They will be showing footage of the situation right now in Ukraine, really letting people know how serious the situation is and really showing their support for the people back home that they love. For Annenberg Media, I'm Cassie Esparza.
After years of casual play, spikeball has officially been recognized as a club sport. Spikeball incorporates elements from volleyball, foursquare, and handball. Most other sports strictly compete against other schools, but spikeball players compete against and alongside players from other schools.
We got more money and we got more nets. We can have more people, and more people means more skill.
I think the difference between playing spikeball just individually for fun versus like with USC is just meeting new people and kind of introducing new people to the sport or learning from better players. And that combination and mix just kind of speaks to like the entire round net community.
Spikeball Round Net Club meets Friday afternoons from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the village lawn and is open to all members of the USC community. So Lizzy, are you going to check out the Spikeball Club?
Yes, I am, Evan. I'm so excited to hear that spikeball is finally getting the recognition that it deserves. It's a great sport. Are you a spikeball fan?
I'm a huge spikeball fan. Growing up playing lacrosse, we used to play spikeball all the time at like tournaments in between games and stuff like that. So I'm pretty familiar with it. I might check it out.
All right, that's great to hear.
Thanks for watching Annenberg TV News. From everybody at Annenberg Media, I'm Evan Wyno.
And I'm Lizzy Reisinger. For more coverage, watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Annenberg Media. Good night.